Because we lack diversity in most of the newsrooms in New Zealand, it means that you often get a bit of a distorted coverage of the region. For example, there's a tendency to think in most New Zealand media that the Pacific is only one part of the Pacific, which is the eastern side, the so-called Polynesian Triangle from Tahiti to the east, to Hawaii and down to New Zealand, of course. But so we tend to look upon the Pacific as just being the Polynesian countries. And Melanesia and Micronesia consequently just squeezed out.
Lack of diversity in the New Zealand media means there's less journalists who are experts in that region to provide authentic and well-researched stories and explore the cultural nuances and aspects of that region. So it certainly does affect the coverage of the Pacific.
This is probably the most recent event, and of course it's absolute madness. The local council on the state of Yap, who have declared her, Joyce, being persona non grata because of her investigations around corruption and so on. But it's very badly timed, because we're coming right up into the World Media Freedom Day on May the 3rd, and to actually sort of do this on the eve almost of that important day is like shooting themselves in the foot.
How would you characterize the state of media freedom in the Pacific overall?
I would say it's quite poor. I would say journalists aren't free to cover and investigate stories with impunity, and I appreciate that the concepts of freedom of speech might be different, but where these countries are a democracy, they need to have a free media, and journalists need to be free to report and hold people accountable, which is not the case in general.
Reporters Without Borders in Paris have just come out with their global report on the state of the media all over the world, and quite a few Pacific countries, reported on, and this is part of the global index. They do show that Fiji, for example, and Papua New Guinea have slightly risen in terms of where they were last year. However, it's a bit misleading, you see, because most of the world's media press freedom has deteriorated globally.
I guess the coverage that we do is more focused on Polynesia because of the population of Polynesians we have in New Zealand. Melanesia tends to fall into the margins, but I would say the Pacific as a whole needs to be covered.
It's a shocking situation in the Philippines. I've worked as a journalist. I mean, although my area of expertise is mainly in the Pacific, I do have quite an Asian brief as well, and I've worked in the Philippines at different stages.
West Papua should be at the forefront of New Zealand media. That should make the main page of our national publications more than our current content. Certainly, like human rights abuses and illegitimate annexations of entire countries should be mainstream front page news. It should certainly, I mean, the reason that more attention is not given to West Papua and Indonesia is because they're a key trading partner. That's all.
Right at this moment, we're in probably the worst state, because you've got the president, Rodrigo Duterte, who's constantly making threats against the media, and particularly trying to make examples of media such as Rappler, which is a very innovative and investigative website run by Maria Ressa, who's won a number of awards for her journalism, and she's a really courageous journalist. And what we're seeing in the Pacific now is these new laws coming through that are ostensibly, on one hand, they're supposed to be stepping down or clamping down on cyber crime, on cyber bullying and issues like that, which is all commendable, but what's really probably behind the scenes is very much creating a situation where it makes it very difficult for journalists to speak out on online media and so on. So that's a big threat. I think it's a really big threat for the media in the Pacific, because it's created a situation of even more self-censorship.